In Vancouver, Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou made a brief appearance in court today.
Ms. Meng, what do you have to say to the charges?
She was there to make a change in one of the people who posted $7 million in assets to get her freed on bail. The move comes a day after the U.S. Justice Department filed a formal request for her extradition. In an indictment revealed yesterday, the U.S. accuses Meng and her company of misrepresenting a corporate relationship in order to get around U.S. sanctions on Iran. China is demanding she be released. All of this comes as high-level trade negotiations between the U.S. and China are set to resume tomorrow in Washington. Joining me from Victoria to talk about the implications of the extradition charges on those talks is Michael Bociurkiw. He is a global affairs analyst and a former reporter for the South China Morning Post and Asia Times. Michael, welcome to the program.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
Michael, how would you describe the situation that Canada now finds itself in between China and the U.S.?
Well, it's nothing short of a diplomatic and political mess for Canada. I think we're in crisis mode right now, and I sure hope that the government in Ottawa is looking at it that way. You know, in terms of the fallout, the political damage to the Liberals from everything that's happened, Ambassador McCallum with the extradition request and so on, I think it's now moved way beyond the India debacle in terms of damage to the party. So they must be taking that very seriously. Secondly, of course, I mean, we can't forget about the two detained Canadians in China, as well as the ones on death row. And what really worries, I'm sure a lot of Canadians right now, is that we are without an envoy there right now to be able to advocate on their behalf. So that is also a very big worry. And then thirdly, Carol, I have to mention, sitting here in British Columbia, the province has a huge exposure to China in terms of trade, investment, tourism, and so on. And should the Chinese continue to squeeze Canada, the pain is really going to be felt here first, I think.
Yep.
Then
I want to, you know what, Michael, I just want to stop you there because let's break down some of the things that you've said. You said you hope the government recognizes the mess that we're in. Chrystia Freeland said today, she said there is a huge focus on this issue by the Canadian government. Do you think they recognize the mess that they're in, and what, if anything, can be done?
Well, it's, you know, until now, of course, Canada has been doing the right thing in terms of being reactive to public sentiment. And what is that? That is playing by the rule book. You know, the rules-based international order, which Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland speak about so often. So I think they've been doing that right. But, you know, in terms of moving a little bit backwards, Carol, there could have been a chance, I believe, and I've written this in my op-ed, that Canada probably could have looked the other way, let her go on to Mexico or the United States and let them deal with it. In fact, it might have even been possible for the Americans to have picked Ms. Meng up in Hong Kong, but I'm told through sources of mine that they just don't trust the Hong Kong authorities enough to do that. Moving forward, I think it's really important that we get that envoy to China as quickly as possible, a new envoy.
Does it need to be a special envoy, or does it just need to be a new ambassador?
Well, I think the problem is, and I've worked in diplomacy a lot with the OSCE, is that usually the process to approve a new ambassador does take some time. The Chinese side has to approve it. On the other hand, if it was a special envoy that the government believes China would be acceptable, I think that could move faster, and I think that's probably what should be done.
Okay, who should this person be?
That's the $1 million,
but yeah.
$1 million question, and I think we've learned a little bit of a lesson in terms of sending a politician with a loose mouth to Beijing, and you know what he did here in terms of those press conferences. So it has to be someone of stature, because the Chinese really respect that, but also someone who can stay on message and be very discreet. I mean, what former Ambassador McCallum said was unbelievable to most of us. So,
what was unbelievable about it? Because there is a split in this country about what he said. Some people saying he was right and didn't interfere with the process, and others like you who find it unbelievable. So, what was unbelievable about it, in your opinion, Michael?
I think what was unbelievable is saying out loud that Ms. Meng has a strong case and saying things, for example, that Canada isn't part of those Iran sanctions. So why should she be tied into this in terms of how we deal with her? But unbelievable in the sense that of what was said, but also one has to wonder, Carole, to set up a press conference with the ethnic Chinese media in Markham, I believe it was, one needs a bit of machinery to do that. So part of me does suspect that there might have been some Liberal Party involvement here or PMO involvement, because an ambassador just doesn't arrive anywhere and set up a press conference on by himself.
All right. So you think this person needs to be part of the diplomatic corps, a professional diplomat? Ideally, yes, because there will be so many issues to deal with, not only the detained Canadians, getting them out, pleading for clemency for the gentleman on death row, but also putting the Canada-Sino relationship back on track. I think it's been very badly damaged. So, you know, getting those trade talks back, the free trade agreement back on track. Look, I'll say this, Carole, having spent so much time in the Greater China area, is the one thing the Chinese do not like, and I think the Americans are making this mistake, is to lose face in public. So Canada has probably done pretty well in that regard. They probably liked what Ambassador McCallum said, but it's very important to be almost differential with them at times. Yeah, so you say that the person that has to be chosen has to be a person of stature. What kind of stature are we talking about? Like a former prime minister, a former chief diplomat, a former chief justice, someone like that? Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Brian Mulroney, but someone of that stature, a former prime minister, because he's done a pretty good job advocating on behalf of Canada in the United States. So I think that would take us a long way in terms of getting those items I mentioned back on track. Okay, China's government has said that it sees the charges as part of a bigger U.S. plan, Michael, to hold back the world's second biggest economy. But at the same time, they're sending a team over to talk to the United States. Do you think China's a little bit on its heels from the pressure in the United States? I think they're surprised, Carole. They're not used to this type of leader, the Donald Trump type of way of, you know, the art of the deal, the kind of being a bully and pressuring them. Again, they don't like to lose face in public. And I think even some of the statements they've said in the past 24 or 48 hours may be a bit softer than what we're usually used to hearing. I think that they do have a certain road ahead to go before they will say enough is enough. The Americans are being too hard on us. And we will deal with some of the other countries in the world. We will do commercial business with them that, you know, because Huawei, for example, a lot of its growth is actually outside of the United States and Canada. So that company can survive. But the other option, of course, the Chinese have, and they've used it before, Carole, is slapping very difficult restrictions on companies like Apple, Boeing, Caterpillar, because they have the capacity to do that. They've done it in the past. Yeah, a little bit of insight into what we might expect in terms of retaliation if they're excluded from this 5G network. Michael, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Welcome to the program. My pleasure. Thank you. Michael Bociurkiw, Global Affairs Analyst and a former reporter for the South China Morning Post and Asia Times.